What do you want from me? I'm just blood and flesh and bones. I'm not an answer.
Welcome to Mildly Entertaining at UNCW, the show where the Office of Military Affairs keeps you mildly entertained and more or less up to date on what's going on at UNCW. Your hosts are Joanna DeMott, the Military Liaison and Program Coordinator, and Melanie Nelson, the Military Student Services Specialist. Hi, Joanna. How's it going?
I'm great today. I know you were trying to get out of me saying that I'm great by asking me how it's going, but I always say that I'm great, and I am great. I was participating in my normal type of up-tempo today as the mobile unit. I just rushed in from Jacksonville. Felt good to get back out. How are you today, Melanie?
I am excellent. Do you want to know why I'm excellent?
Why is that?
Because it's the 245th birthday of the United States Navy. Yay, Navy. And I found the coolest series on YouTube to share to celebrate the United States Navy. We've done 245 years of cool stuff, and they did this series where YouTube partnered, they took YouTube creators, and it's called Verse Sailor. And so they put somebody, a sailor from the same type of work, whether it's a musician or an engineer or whatever, and they pitted them against each other in a competition to see who could do it better. It's fascinating. I learned so much about the Navy after watching like 2 videos, and like, this is so much better than the traditional thing I would share, which is like a solemn recording of the Navy hymn and whatever. I mean, Eternal Father, Strong Save and all that. I'm happy that it's there, but like Versus Sailor is just going to be my favorite thing to watch for a while.
Well, happy birthday, and that I have to check that out for sure. Have to check that out.
For sure. Okay, a couple of other things. There might be some random weird things happening on this podcast. Like, for example, my Roomba, who we affectionately refer to as Pumbaa, might go off randomly. He's been acting up recently. I've done what I can to disable him. I don't know what's going to happen. So if it sounds like a robot army is about to take over the podcast, that's why. Also, my cat coworker is chasing a lizard through my kitchen right now, and we don't know where that's going to go. So if there's some like weird background noise, there's just stuff happening. This is the Mildly Entertaining at UNCW podcast. We don't know. Finally, Joanna, I need an update on your snack crate situation.
Absolutely. I was a little disappointed with the last snack crate. It was a Route 66 theme, but one of the things wasn't sealed. And here in North Carolina, what happens when things aren't sealed? Sugar ants. So they did give me a refund for that particular item, and we were able to partake in the rest of the items. But the children and I are enjoying the snack crate. There's always a chip, usually 2, a sweet or 2. But we have done Holland, we have done the Route 66 tour, Hawaii, and Japan. So the next one will be coming here soon, and thanks for asking. Thanks for asking.
Delighted for that update, mostly because the resident grocery shopper in our household these days went to Costco the other day and came back with a large box that is basically a snack crate, and it has all these little snacks in it. It's like 57 snacks. It's amazing, and I'm very, very excited that we are snack and happy for a while. So I just wanted to know what was coming in your snack crate. Anyway, we have other important business to attend to, so why don't you go ahead and introduce our guests?
Yes, we're snack heavy in the beginning here. I am so excited. And thank you for listening to our snack conversation. Rob Campbell, Army veteran, executive leadership coach, author, and professional speaker, all of those things in one. How are you today, Rob?
I'm wonderful. Great to be with both of you. This is a great program you have.
We think so, sometimes.
Absolutely.
I see you're in a really lovely space. Our listeners won't see, but I can tell it's not like a normal office or something like that. Your job is a little different than some others. You're not necessarily in an office all the time, but right. What is your work situation now? How has it changed? What's going on?
Yeah, it has changed a bit. I was doing some stuff virtually for a while, so it wasn't a major shift, but it's almost exclusively that now, where I'm not in a building somewhere where people are assembled and helping them, with all my leadership offerings, all done virtually. So that's been the biggest shift. I do executive leadership coaching, and I do speaking. The speaking side of it, I have continued through Zoom, but not to the level that I was before the pandemic. And you can continue to do that. You can continue to speak, but the pandemic has really stripped away what I believe to be the magic, and that's that personal interaction between audience and speaker. When I'm speaking to a group and I can sense their interaction, I can pick up on their emotions and all of those things that help me guide the speech and take a journey with them. Very difficult to do on Zoom because, I mean, somebody could be checking email or whatever, shut their camera off. It's just very, very hard to connect that way. It's one of the things that I guess the good thing that has come out of the pandemic is I do really desire to be able to take my business wherever I go. My wife and I are a bit vagabond and we like to move and travel. And I don't want to be anchored down to a building somewhere to a specific spot because of my business. I prefer to take it on the road, which I do. And this has really helped it even further where, you know, if I'm an executive coach somebody, I can do it all via the Zoom platform and my leadership business and be able to be wherever I'm at. So ups and downs, it's not easy. It still is a chase to go out and find clients out there, and lots of organizations are tightening purse strings, but we're moving forward.
I agree. You know, I've seen you speak in person a few times, and I do agree that it is harder to gauge your audience, especially if you have a large audience. I think that this particular modality is great for 20 or less, but if you get it any bigger than that, you can't really get that interaction that you want. But I'm super happy that you're able to take advantage of you know, your retirement and building this business while you get to travel around with your spouse. That sounds very appealing, and I'm sure it will to most of our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've heard enough about snacks, but I'm going to turn you over to Melanie, and she's got some questions for you.
We just want to know, in the vagabond lifestyle, what does snacking look like?
Well, I'm a fruit fiend. I enjoy my daily apple, so that's usually a between lunch and dinner snack for me. I don't know if coffee qualifies as a snack, but I do enjoy a post-lunch coffee, you know, kind of when you get tired and you need a bit of a pickup. It is nice. Less so in the summer, more in the winter, because the summer is just, you know, it's just so hot and humid. Even if you're indoors, I kind of steer away from coffee, or I might go to to an iced coffee instead. Almonds are good. You know, a handful of nuts is always a good snack. I've heard it's healthy, and it's, you know, so it's sometimes mid-morning I'll grab onto something like that, and it really helps tide me over. Because what I've been told anyway is, you know, eat 5 meals a day, smaller ones, and, you know, so you're not gorging yourself at breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That is, in fact, the definition of snacking. Yes, highly approve of almonds and apples, and those do sound like good, like pick up and go snacks, like good travel snacks. So I think you're setting yourself up well for this whole meandering bohemian vagabond public speaking career. Excellent, excellent. Happy to hear that. Okay, so now we're going to get into the real meat of the interview. I'm just kidding, that comes with Joanna. But we do want our listeners to know a little bit more about your story, starting way back when you were in college, and then how did starting off in college, or whatever that looked like for you, get you to where you are now, embracing the vagabond lifestyle?
Yeah, long journey. I'll try and keep it as short as I can. I graduated high school in 1986, and my dad was a businessman, sold commercial insurance. And so I guess it was just kind of a natural path for me. I went off to school to get a business degree. And I was a basketball fanatic. Played it all the time in high school and was eager to join the college team. But I didn't make it. I didn't have a left hand. You know, I just should have seen that coming, right? But I didn't make the team freshman year. And so that life passion of mine came to a screeching halt. And I had to find something else. And that's where I stumbled into the Army and took Army ROTC in college. And that was the beginning of my Army career, which started in 1990 when I graduated. But college for me, you know, so I get a business degree and I go into the infantry. So I may not have used the business degree specific in a real business, but I was in an organization. So I brought a lot of that organizational stuff that I learned in college. It really widened my aperture, because even today I can trace back to certain classes that I took. It was a history class, I recall. I took one on media where I got a great chance to kind of see how, you know, TV networks operate. It was just interesting to kind of see, just widen my aperture, and just being in that environment, learning and growing was really good. Couple that with my ROTC experience. That's where I really discovered leadership and got a chance to practice it as a young cadet in the National Guard and all the stuff I was doing in ROTC. So when I graduated in 1990, I had a really good foundation that 4 years of education gave me. And I've got 2 master's degrees. So I've revisited academia, and I will pursue a PhD at some point in time when I can clear out some white space here. But it all began back in those college days, which I really cherish.
I love it. I couldn't have planted you any better into this podcast if I had tried. It all comes back to those college, and I think we all probably have that one course or that one moment of learning in college when we're like, oh yeah, no, that made the whole degree worthwhile because I brought that forward into everything that I did. And even, I was going over some new best practices and things for student veterans the other day. And I was like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this thing I learned back in the day, before my master's degree, back in my undergraduate degree. It all brings forward. It's always valuable. And sometimes our students, my students in particular, need to hear that because I teach the students who have just transferred into UNCW, and sometimes they're getting in that point, the midpoint of the semester, where they're like, ugh, what's it all for? And they're getting very angsty about it. And now we can be like, no, really, see, he told us it will build into something later on. That's a really cool story. So thanks for sharing that. And I'm going to hand you, as I mentioned, back over to Joanna for the truly heavy hitting portion of the interview.
Thanks, Melanie.
None of this is heavy hitting at all. We know this. I really enjoyed hearing that about your path. What do you think your favorite part of what you do? And I know you do many things, but if you had to pick your favorite part of what you do, what would it be?
It's speaking. I really do enjoy that the most, and I miss that tremendously in this period that we're in right now. Nothing thrills me more than a room full of people that I can inspire and influence, share a story, be vulnerable, and be the real Rob Campbell. And then just kind of watch them walk out afterwards, changed, maybe in some small way. One of the things I miss, Joanna, and in this encore life that I'm in, is what the Army gave me, which is command of soldiers and care of their families. That was something that the Army fed to me for 27 years. I was always in charge of somebody, something, and some organization. I miss that on the outside. I don't have that. But when I'm speaking, I get to command the audience, right? And in a way, they're subservient to me. I'm there and I'm kind of commanding and conducting them. Not that I'm, not from an oppressive or a dictator standpoint, but just, command them in a very positive way by sharing a story and planting some seeds in their head. And the challenge of getting that delivery done right, because you want to go in and give them everything, the whole enchilada, but they don't. Less is more, less is better in speaking. And so all of that is really what I love to do the most is get in there and inspire a crowd. And I love to, one of the greatest opportunities I have is when an organization has something it wants to champion, a new initiative, a new direction, a new strategy. Bring a guy like me in and let me get behind that, offer some inspiring, maybe tie it to an Army story or an experience of mine, and really get the audience juiced up. That's what I love the most.
And you do that well. You really do.
Thank you.
At least I think so. What do you think some misconceptions are about what you do? Maybe the coaching piece?
Yep. Yeah, great question. The first is the military side of it, right? So I'm an Army colonel, Ranger paratrooper, 3 times Bronze Star recipient. And I think people might look at that and say, okay, this guy is just going to be very abrasive, a take the hill kind of person. I don't know that I could learn from that because that's not what my organization needs. And that couldn't be anything further from the truth. I mean, the military, certainly the Army, is a very human endeavor. And it was really important for us to know our people on a very deep level and get to know their families and what made them tick and connect with them in very human ways, which organizations need desperately. So that's one of the obstacles I kind of have to overcome. But and I do it through vulnerability. When I'm talking to somebody, listen, I don't have all the answers. And frankly, I screwed up a lot of things as a leader. And I want to share that with the audience. That's vulnerability and transparency that helps me kind of overcome that obstacle. And the second one is that you know, sometimes organizations don't know they have a leadership problem. They have a huge leadership problem. Maybe they might say, well, we've got a turnover issue. No, that's a symptom of something, and likely bad leadership. And so that's a challenge to kind of get them to that realization that, okay, our problems are all centered on leadership, how we're influencing, how we're communicating, how we're inspiring, how we're team building, and all of those things. So that's a tough thing. It's a fun challenge, but to get someone to realize and recognize that, yeah, leadership is the solution to a lot of the different problems that you have.
Always, oh, I always learn something new. Always learn something new, and I know those organizations that you work with do as well. Do you have an interest that you would consider a passion? It doesn't have to be professionally related, maybe something outside, besides living like a vagabond.
Yeah, motorcycle riding.
All
I
right.
have a BMW motorcycle I bought in 2009 after I got back from Afghanistan, and I rode it to the Arctic Circle, and I've ridden it all over Europe, all over Colorado, Pennsylvania, lots of different places I've taken the bike. And for me, it's thrilling, you know, like surfing might be, or a fast-paced sport would be. It's peaceful, it's liberating, you know, being on the outside and in some gorgeous places, because I love to ride in the mountains where all the twisty roads are. And with that comes just some gorgeous scenery. So it is a passion of mine that I, you know, like to try and dedicate time to. In fact, I just got back from the mountains last week and I took the bike up. The weather was pristine. So that's one of my side hobbies that I really cherish.
I'm really glad I asked. To the Arctic Circle. You'll have to tell me that story sometime.
Yeah, that was an interesting ride.
Do you have anything you'd like our listeners to know? Any upcoming events or anything?
Yeah, I do want to share something, going back to what Melanie asked about my college experience, which I think could be valuable to your audience. And my advice to students out there is do what you love. I'll give you an example. I don't think I should have got a business degree. I think I've been better suited in maybe history or human relations, psychology, something in that space, because I really love human interaction. I'm fascinated by people. And I think I would have flourished in that space. I'm not a details guy. I'm not a real money specific finance kind of guy. And that was what was, you know, the central to my business degree. My son Loudon is a senior at UNC Asheville, and he's a music major, loves playing the guitar, jazz guitar. He's in a band, and he's really grown and flourished in his college years. It's just wonderful to see him now as a senior, really truly embracing the courses that he, you know, went to that school to take. But he was terrified at the beginning because he was afraid that music wouldn't put food on the table, wouldn't sustain him in life. That's because that's what the system, you know, tells us to believe. Parents, perhaps, others, you know, their advice and opinions on what we ought to do as people. And I know it's very difficult for some young people that are coming out of high school and entering into the college years to really figure out what it is they want to do. But it goes to the question of, you know, if you could wake up tomorrow and money wasn't an issue, what is it you would do? That speaks to where your passion is. The other one is take 5 points in your life, reflect back when you were in it. You were confident, you were juiced up, you were flowing. I mean, it was good. You know, you were doing something that was really, really inspiring and fulfilling. It might have been in sports. It might have been, you know, something else. Those things ought to speak to you as well. And that really gets to where your core purpose is and what you love doing. And let that guide your college career. You can do anything with your degree after you graduate. I'm living proof. I've never really used my business degree. I went off and did very different things. My son might end up teaching, maybe teaching music. Wouldn't that be great? But I think it's an important point for those that are out there, you know, and here we are, fall semester, kind of getting started, and, you know, not quite sure what they're doing, whether they made the right decision. You absolutely did, because you're going to learn by default, just being in that institution of learning, you know, just by default, and in interacting with, and this is why college is the best of any, is because you're getting taught by someone that has dedicated their life to that topic. You know, not just been tasked to go, all right, go teach math. No, they dedicated their life to that topic. That alone ought to be inspiring. So I wanted to kind of drop that pearl of wisdom as I reflect back on my own life, and then watch my sons pursue, what really motivates them.
You make me feel better about not doing that MBA and doing that graduate program in human relations for sure. Thank you. Those are great, great, great points. Do what
Thank
you
you.
love. Love it. Thank you so much for coming on today, Rob.
My pleasure. Great to be with both of you.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing and for offering those nuggets of wisdom. We do appreciate that. So I have a question.
Yes.
You are missing your public speaking opportunities right now. The Zoom environment isn't cutting it for you. You miss the eyeball contact, all of that. But why aren't you hosting a podcast? I mean, it gives us the opportunity to talk to people one-on-one. I'm looking at your website. You have a blog, you have some videos, but not a podcast. Why not a podcast? Just dropping an idea in the mix.
It's a great question, Melanie, and I have absolutely considered it. I think for me, it's a bandwidth issue. Part of my person, I'm very self-aware, and I use my self-awareness, and I let it guide me. I'm a visionary, not a details guy. So I can visualize with the best of them. I can be strategic with the best of them. I can have these wonderful ideas with the best of them. I'd be a wonderful podcast host, and it would have a ball doing these kind of things. I've very much enjoyed my time with both of you. It's the backside stuff, right? It's the editing and the producing and all the stuff that goes with it that scares me. And it's the bandwidth, and it's a commitment. And as you two know, if you're going to step into this space, yeah, I'll do a few. No, you got to commit for the journey. And I think that scares me a little bit. Stay tuned. I mean, it may be something that I do. Because right now I'm building a team. I just hired a military spouse recently to do some business development. But I can envision a day, hopefully soon, where Rob Campbell Leadership is a team of people, and I get to focus on my craft. That might be hosting a podcast, and then let someone do the back end work to kind of get it up and get it hung and all those things, because I suck at that. But it's a great question.
We're not so great at it ourselves, frankly. We're fly by the seat. It's called mildly entertaining for a reason. But if you are building a business, you do have the opportunity to get interns, and there's a podcasting class with the communication studies program at UNCW. I just like to make connections when possible. We would happily promote an internship with your company should it ever get to that point. There you go. I just did the back end for you. You got this. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you again for coming by. Thanks for sharing your life advice. And this has been an episode of Mildly Entertaining at UNCW, and we will see you on the internet. Thank you for listening to Mildly Entertaining. Our intro music comes from the band Blue Turnip and their song, What Do You Want From Me? You can find their EP, Songs from the Root Cellar, on Bandcamp, iTunes, Amazon, and Spotify. For more information, you can go to blueturnipmusic.com.